Welcome to the History Story Podcast. All right, everyone, get ready for a wild one because today we're going on a fascinating historic road trip. We're heading straight into the skies over Belgium, back in 1989 and 1990.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Forget your boring old history books.
Right.
We're going headfirst into some truly bizarre events. This is the story of the Belgian UFO wave. And, you shared some really amazing history books and sources with us on this one.
Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, detailing all these widespread, perplexing sightings. It's incredible.
You know, what immediately grabs me about this whole Belgian UFO wave thing, this whole historic road trip, is the sheer scale of it. You know what I mean? Like how widespread it was.
Yeah.
And really importantly, who was seeing these things. We're not talking about just a couple of people having some vague experience. This gripped the entire nation.
Yeah.
And even went right up to their military.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack on this historic road trip. We've got to figure out the key events, the context, all the different theories that try to explain it. And by the end of this, hopefully we all understand why this is still such a captivating and hotly debated topic. I mean, we're talking first-hand accounts, military involvement, even a confession of a hoax. So buckle up.
It's going to be a wild ride.
It really is. Okay, so it seems like it all kicked off in late November of 1989 near Eupen. What happened? What was that initial shock?
Well, the very first report, it's pretty remarkable. We have these two gendarmerie officers, Heinrich Nicole and Hubert von Montagny, that's like a national police force in Belgium. They reported seeing this absolutely massive, dark, silent, triangular craft.
Wow.
And get this, steady, bright lights at each of its corners. And right in the center, a pulsing red light.
No way.
But what really got them, what stood out was how slowly and deliberately it moved. I mean, think about that. Something that big, just cruising, no engine noise. And that silence is something a lot of witnesses would mention later on, too. It just sets the stage for how strange this whole thing was going to be.
It really does. It paints such a vivid picture in your mind, doesn't it? Something enormous, silent, just floating there. And this wasn't just like a one-time thing, right? This wasn't an isolated incident.
Oh, absolutely not. Not at all. This was just the beginning. Over the following months, what started as a few reports here and there, it became a deluge. I mean, hundreds, thousands of similar accounts poured in from all across Belgium.
Wow.
People were describing these large, silent objects, often triangular, sometimes boomerang-shaped, making these crazy maneuvers. They were hitting speeds that, frankly, seemed utterly impossible for the tech they had back then. It wasn't just a local story anymore. This was a full-blown national phenomenon.
So you have these initial reports, right? And then we jump ahead to this one night where things apparently go really, really strange.
Things escalate.
March 30th to 31st, 1990. What exactly went down?
That period, that's when things really kicked up a notch. We had multiple NATO radar stations tracking these unidentified targets. And what they were picking up, well, it seemed like these things were breaking the laws of physics. I'm talking crazy fast movements, dropping altitude like a rock, things that no aircraft of that era should have been able to do. It was wild.
That's insane. And so the Belgian Air Force, they scramble jets, right? They sent up fighters to try and intersect whatever these things are.
Yep. 2 F-16 fighter jets were scrambled. The pilots, they reported getting these intermittent radar locks on the targets. They said these things would just appear and disappear in a blink, dropping thousands of feet in seconds and then just accelerating like you wouldn't believe. Sounds almost like science fiction, doesn't it?
It does. But you said something really important earlier. The pilots never actually saw the craft.
That's the thing. They were getting these radar locks, but they never actually had a visual.
So what was going on?
Well, later analysis, the Belgian military came in and they suggested some of these radar locks might have been a thing called Bragg scattering. Basically, the radar signals were bouncing off each other or getting messed up by the atmosphere, creating these false positives, making it look like there was something solid there when there wasn't.
Okay, so that potentially explains some of the radar data. But what about the people on the ground, right? They were seeing things at the same time.
That's where it gets complicated. The radar, maybe we can explain that, but you have all these independent witnesses on the ground, including police officers, and they're reporting seeing these unusual lights, weird movements at the exact same time as the radar anomalies. We're talking separate people, no connection to each other or the military, all saying they saw something strange. If the radar was just a fluke, what were they all seeing?
Right. It makes you wonder. So we had these bizarre events happening up in the sky. But what was going on down here on the ground? Like, why 1989 and 1990? What was the context?
Well, think about it. The late 80s, early 90s, it was a time of massive global change. The Berlin Wall coming down, it was a huge moment. The world order was shifting. It makes sense that this kind of atmosphere of change, of uncertainty, could have affected how people saw things. Maybe it made them more likely to interpret the unusual in a certain way, to look for explanations beyond the ordinary. It's about the psychology of the time.
That's a really interesting point. And what was the official reaction to all of this? Like, given all the reports and the military being involved, it couldn't have been just a shrug, right?
No, not at all. The amount of reports, especially coming from law enforcement, you couldn't ignore it. The Belgian Air Force, they launched a formal investigation. And here's the interesting part.
Yeah.
They actually teamed up with SOBEPS, the Belgian Society for the Study of Space Phenomena, a civilian UFO research group. That official acknowledgement, that collaboration, it was pretty unique, really lent weight to the idea that something was going on.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I can only imagine the media had a field day with this. I mean, a UFO wave, the military involved.
Yeah.
That's got to be front page news everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It became a national, even international obsession. The media frenzy definitely added fuel to the fire, and I'd bet it led to even more reported sightings. People were more aware, they were looking up, and maybe they saw what they wanted to see, you know?
Makes sense. So, now for the big question, the why. What are the main theories trying to explain the Belgian UFO wave? Let's start with the big one. Extraterrestrial visitors.
Of course, aliens, right.
Yeah.
It's the go-to for UFOs. And, the characteristics, the silent movement, the hovering, the insane acceleration, those maneuvers, those were beyond anything we could do back in 1989, 1990.
Right.
It all fits the classic UFO image. And SOBEPS, after their investigation, they concluded that these objects did actually display flight characteristics that were beyond anything we knew at the time. That was their official assessment.
Wow. Okay, so another major theory.
Yeah.
Secret military aircraft.
Right.
Could this have been some top secret tech being tested out over Belgium?
It's a solid theory for those who aren't quite ready to go full alien. The triangular shape, it does line up with some early stealth aircraft designs, like the American F-117 Nighthawk.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some pushback. The U.S. and other countries, they officially deny doing any such test flights over Belgium at the time.
Right.
Plus, what people were describing, the flight characteristics, the size of some of these things, it didn't quite match up with what we knew stealth aircraft could do back then. But you can't completely rule out some super secret black project being tested, however unlikely it is, according to official sources.
Yeah, there's always that possibility.
Yeah.
What about mass hysteria? Or just misidentification?
Oh, that's a crucial one.
Could people have just been seeing things that weren't really unusual and just interpreting them differently?
Skeptics, they argue that once the initial sightings got media attention, it created this kind of mass suggestion.
Yeah.
Like a psychological contagion. People start seeing helicopters, planes, weather stuff, maybe even bright stars or planets, and suddenly they're thinking UFOs. And a lot of the reports did come in after the media really blew up the story, which supports that idea. Plus, some of those ground reports did actually mention engine or turbine sounds, which means some of those sightings were probably just helicopters or regular planes. For example, there was a report from the Wavre Gendarmerie. They said they saw 4 lights in a square formation, jerky movements, but they also heard an engine, a turbine sound. That's way more helicopter than Silent Triangle. It shows how even in a wave of strange sightings, you'll have regular things mixed in.
Right.
People misinterpreting what they're seeing.
So misidentification, okay. Then there's the more down-to-earth explanations. Atmospheric phenomena. Could the weather, could other natural effects have played a role?
Absolutely. Atmospheric things like temperature inversions, they can create optical illusions. Lights in the sky get distorted, start behaving in weird ways, and like we talked about earlier, the Bragg scattering thing.
Yeah.
That likely explains some of the radar locks the F-16s got. So yeah, it's very possible a bunch of atmospheric conditions caused some of what people saw and what the radar picked up.
Okay, and then last but not least, we have to talk about hoaxes.
Right.
Because we know at least one of the famous photos from this time turned out to be fake. How does that revelation fit into all of this?
Well, in 2011, we found out that the Petir-Shan photograph, that clear picture of a triangular craft, it was a hoax.
Oh, wow.
Someone made it using styrofoam and lights. And that definitely casts a shadow over the visual evidence from the Belgian wave. It's a good reminder that misinformation, even straight-up fakes, they can easily become part of stories like this. But, and this is important, that one fake photo doesn't mean all the other reports are bogus.
Right.
Hundreds, thousands of independent accounts, radar contacts. You can't just dismiss all of that.
Yep.
Were there probably some hoaxes mixed in? Yeah, almost certainly, especially with all the attention this was getting. But it's unlikely hoaxes explain the whole thing, especially the early reports from reliable people like police officers before the media frenzy even started.
So we have this whole mix of possible explanations, and it doesn't seem like any one of them perfectly answers every question. So what are the lasting impacts of the Belgian UFO wave?
It's important.
Why are we still talking about this today?
The Belgian UFO wave, it's still a big deal in ufology, and there's a few reasons for that. First, how big and how long it was. It went on for months, tons of people involved. Second, the people who saw these things, many of them were pretty credible, like police officers, people whose job it is to observe and report accurately. And third, the military. The radar data, the F-16s getting scrambled. Even if we can explain some of that now, it adds to the intrigue. The official response was so big, that makes it more interesting too.
It really captured people's imaginations.
Right.
It got people interested in UFOs, not just in Belgium, but all over the world.
Yeah.
It was a moment in time.
Exactly. And the 1991 SOGEPS report, even though some people disagree with its conclusions, it's still a key document for anyone researching UFOs. It shows how seriously they took this. They put a lot of effort into collecting and analyzing the data. And culturally, that image of the silent black triangle, it became like the symbol of the UFO mystery, especially in UFO circles.
Right.
And, you know, at the end of the day, I think what keeps the debate going is that there's no definitive answer, no one explanation that satisfies everyone. People who believe in aliens, they point to the unexplained stuff as evidence. Skeptics keep searching for normal explanations.
Yeah.
It's a stalemate.
It's a back and forth. Okay, let's dig a little deeper into some of those details you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You talked about the consistency of the descriptions from different people. That seems important.
It is. It's actually pretty remarkable. Even though so many people saw these things, they described pretty much the same thing. Large, triangular, silent. The lights were specific, bright white lights at the corners, a red or orange light in the middle. That consistency across all these separate people who didn't know each other and weren't making up stories together, it's hard to just brush off as random misidentification or people being suggestible. It makes you think that maybe they really were all seeing something with those same characteristics.
So it wasn't just random, unrelated things.
Exactly.
You also said that the first report from those police officers, Nicole and von Montigny, that was really important for how the whole investigation went.
Oh, yeah. Those guys were trained observers, authority figures. Their report, being official and detailed, it carried a lot of weight from the get-go. It gave legitimacy to the idea that something unusual was happening. It triggered the whole larger investigation.
Yeah.
If the first reports were from less credible people, who knows? Maybe the whole thing would have been dismissed as nothing. But their report, it provided this foundation of, hey, this is serious.
Right. You couldn't ignore it.
Exactly. And there was that controversy about the F-16 radar locks, too. Different numbers were reported. What's the real story there?
What actually happened?
So early on, SOGEPS said the pilots got 9 radar locks. But later, the Belgian military came out and said, no, there were only 3 definite locks that we couldn't immediately explain.
Okay.
And even those, they said, might have been from interference between the 2 F-16s or that brag scattering thing.
Yeah.
It shows how tricky it is to figure out this complex technical data and how early interpretations can change when you get more information.
Yeah.
Things aren't always what they seem at first.
And the Wavre Gendarmerie report, the one that sounded like maybe they saw a helicopter, why is that one important?
That one's interesting because it's so different from the others.
Right.
They saw 4 lights in a square, jerky movements, but they heard the engine, a low sound, and something like a turbine. That's not the silent triangle everyone else was talking about. It sounds like a helicopter. It shows that even in a huge wave of strange sightings, you're probably going to have some where people just misidentified something normal. It doesn't explain everything, but it highlights how easy it is to get confused and misinterpret things, especially during events like this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's the timing of a lot of the witness reports.
Right.
Many came in weeks after those main events on March 30th and 31st, and a lot of them were prompted by the media or SOGEPS asking for information. That's something to think about, isn't it?
It is.
People who maybe saw something in the sky weeks before, after all this media and talk about UFOs, they might start to think, oh, maybe that's what I saw too. Or even change their memory to fit the story.
It's like the power of suggestion.
Exactly. The timing is definitely important when we look at the evidence.
Okay, so as we wrap up this historic road trip over Belgium, what are your final thoughts on the Belgian UFO wave? We've got these credible eyewitness accounts, radar data that's interesting but maybe explainable, and all these theories, from the mundane to the really out there. What do you make of it all?
You know, these history books and sources you brought to us, they give us such a fascinating glimpse into this time when the skies over Belgium seemed to hold genuine mysteries. They launched investigations, it captured the imagination of so many people.
Yeah.
It's a real case study in how real events, human perception, the media blowing things up, and maybe even something truly unknown, how they can all come together and create this historical anomaly that we're still scratching our heads over decades later.
It makes you think, even with the radar explanations in that fake photo, there's still the sheer volume of those eyewitness accounts
Right.
and how similar they are. And some of them are from really reliable people like law enforcement.
It keeps the debate alive.
It does. What does it tell us about how we see things, how easily we're influenced, or maybe, just maybe, something else we haven't quite figured out yet?
I think this whole story reminds us that history throws curveballs. We get these events that don't have easy answers, and it forces us to keep asking questions, keep exploring, to be open to all the possibilities, whether they fit our neat little boxes or not.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other flash culture moments, these seemingly inexplicable events throughout history, what other mysteries are hitting there, waiting for us to take a closer look and say, what the heck was going on?
That's a great question, and a perfect place to end our historic road trip.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the History Story Podcast, everyone. And until next week, keep exploring history's wildest stories.